Life can be a challenge. Life can seem impossible. It's never easy when so much is on the line. But you can make a difference. With courage you can set things right. The gift to dream and make dreams real is yours and mine. The power of one begins with believing. It starts in the heart and flows to the soul. It changes the world. Imagine how life will be when we stand in unity. Each of us holds the key to the power of one. Each of us is chosen. There's a mission just for you. Just look inside, you'll be surprised what you can do. The power of one begins with believing. It starts in the heart and flows to the soul and changes the world. Imagine how life will be when we stand in unity. Each of us holds the key to the power of one, and one by one we can make the world a much better place. The power of one begins with believing. It starts in the heart and flows to the soul and changes the world. Imagine how life will be when we stand in unity. Each of us holds the key to the power of one. Imagine how life would be when we stand in unity. Each of us holds the key to peace and harmony. It's inside of you and me. The power of one.
Wow, thanks, Tommy. Well, there was a nun who was involved with the healthcare field, and she was driving along a country road, and she ran out of gas. But luckily for her, there was a gas station quite close by, so she walked to the gas station and asked the young attendant, "Do you have a gas can that I can fill?" And he said, "Oh, the last one was just taken by a guy down, that just came in, and he's going to bring it back shortly if you want to wait." Well, she decided she couldn't wait. She walked back to the car and started rummaging through her car, looking for some kind of a container that she could use for gas. And she found a bedpan. So she took the bedpan back to the gas station. They filled it up, and as she was standing at her car, tilting it over, and the gas was pouring in the car, a couple of men walked by. And one looked at the other and said, "Now that's faith." It'd be quite the sight to see. You know, the truth is that each and every one of us are containers. We are sacred containers. We are containers for the divine within us. Do you realize that? That everywhere you go, you walk in the presence of God, that you are a container for that expression of God, which wants to express through you in magnificent ways as loving spiritual beings. So today we're talking about our power of faith. And when we came into this spiritual, as spiritual beings, into this physical experience, our spiritual selves came in fully equipped with all of the power that we need to live our life. The 12-power banner displays all of those powers, and one of them is faith. We come in with all those powers, and it is up to us to develop them, to let them unfold in our lives, and faith is one of those. Well, aside from talking about faith, an angle of it, I want to talk about the idea that you don't need to know. No, you don't need to know. We might be wondering, what? Well, what do I don't need to know? You don't need to know what's going to happen to you to the rest of the day or tomorrow or the rest of your life. You don't need to know why bad things happen to your good friends. You don't need to know why the world is unfolding the way it is or why there's an earthquake in Japan and poor people in Japan. We don't need to know all of the details and what's going on. But we do need to trust and have faith. Our need to know everything is quite common amongst us humans. We want to know what's going to happen next. We want to know because it makes us feel what?
Secure.
Safe. Yes, it makes us feel safe. And when we don't feel safe, then we feel fearful. Like we're in that place of fear. So wanting to know just helps us to feel good. And in order to know what's going to happen, we try to control everything that's going to happen. We try to make sure that we can manipulate, stimulate everything around us so that we can get to that place of being able to hold on to what's going on in our life so that we got the reins and we can control it. We're taught from an early age, I think, to hold on to things as opposed to letting things go. We want to hold on to them. Even the language in our society supports it. There's expressions in the English language. We say things like, hold on tight, hold your tongue, hold your horses, hold out for more, hold yourself together, hold off on those plans, hold on for dear life, hold the phone, hold still. And when a friend is upset, we say to them, let me hold your hand until you can hold your head up high. It's really right in our DNA, I think, this idea of holding on. We believe it's safer to hold on to something than it is to let it go. But if we take a look at what holding on means, holding on really keeps us limited. You know, when we hold on to the clothes in our cupboard that we haven't worn for 5, 10, 15 years because we think we might grow back into them or grow down into them or however that might be, we hold on to them. But everything is energy. And if you've got something that's been there forever, you need to let it go. You need to let it flow and get it back into circulation. But we want to hold on to it. We hold on to jobs that we don't like. We complain about them every single day. Do you have friends that do that? They're always complaining about their job. We want to hold on because we don't know if we let go of them, what's next? We don't know. So we hold on to them. Have you ever held on to a relationship that you should have let go of? It could be a friend, it could be a spouse, but you've held on because it feels kind of comfortable and safe because you know what it is. You don't know what the next one would be or if there would be a next one. So we hold on. And in holding on, we block our energy. We keep ourselves from being joyful and happy and feeling love and expressing love. To let go is freeing. Just think back to the last time that you decluttered a closet or a room and you stood back and you looked at it and it felt freer. You know, it felt kind of like you could move now. It feels good to let go. They've got those shows. I'm trying to think of the name of it. Is it Hoarding Alive or Hoarders? Yeah. And you know, they can't let go of anything. So everything that they go out and spend all kinds of money and they bring it in their house. And I've actually been in a house like this where there was just a little pathway to get to the kitchen from the door. There was actually just nowhere to really lay down and sleep. There was a chair, but there was so much stuff. Can you imagine how that feels in your body to have so much stuff? You're trapped by what you hold on to. You want to let it go. What about habits and addictions? You know, we hold on to those because it's difficult to let them go, because we don't want to put the energy into letting them go. But when we do, anyone that's had an addiction and you finally overcome it and let it go and let it out of your life, you know how freeing that is. The Tao Te Ching calls this the paradox of letting go. The idea that I don't have to hold on in order to get something else. Our 4T class are learning this lesson. There's been lots of talk this past week because in our 4T class, one of the commitments is tithing. That you tithe 10% of not only your time and your talents, but your finances to the church that feeds you on your spiritual journey. And so, you know, there's some murmuring going on. You know, well, how can I let go of 10% and get more? It doesn't make sense. I want to hold on to that so that I can have more. But we're learning how to shift that thinking. How many of you had an experience where you know that you would have more joy in your life if you just let go of something? Anyone other than me? You know, if you just let it go, you'd have more joy. So today I want to look at an idea because Michael Beckwith says that 100% of our spiritual growth is from letting go. I think that's fascinating. 100% of our spiritual growth is grounded in letting go. So I want to take a look at how can we release our need for control, our need to know what's going to happen, when it's going to happen, how it's going to happen. We want to know all those things. Well, I'm suggesting that the way that we can do that is to embrace the uncertain. Embrace the uncertainty. If I said to you that the situation is uncertain and the future is unknown, how do you feel? Pardon? Someone tell me, how do you feel? Anxious, yes, anxious. And yet if we look at those words, the situation is uncertain, the future is unknown, those words are neutral. They're neutral. Because we could move into a perspective where that's exciting not to know what's going to happen. Imagine your life if you knew everything that was going to happen every day. You're on a hockey team and you go and you know you're going to win or lose before you put your foot on the ice. What fun would that be? You know? So we want to shift our perspective so that we can be in a place where we have feelings of excitement instead and wonderment and curiosity about not knowing and not needing to know what's coming up. He was one of 6 kids, and they lived in a farmhouse, a small farmhouse in Romania. And this farmhouse had 2 bedrooms, no power, no bathrooms, no running water. So he grew up in a very, very poor place, and he wanted something more for his life and for his family. So when he was old enough, he started taking jobs around in Romania, and eventually there was more money to be made in Greece because he was experiencing some discrimination in his home country. And so he went to Greece, where he lived with 18 other guys in a 2-bedroom apartment. They're all young men trying to make a living, and they were all illegal workers in Greece. So he reports that he was arrested 4 times. He was deported twice. He was beaten by the police so badly one time that he couldn't walk for weeks. So getting so fed up with his life experience where he wanted to come to America. So Vasile, with 6 other men, got up one morning and he arrived at a local train station in Italy at 4 in the morning. Now the man that met them in the dark had them meet him where the shipping containers were already loaded on a rail bed. And so this man had cut a hole in the shipping container, just enough at the top where these men could get in. The 7 of them paid each $700. They brought with them a hacksaw, a drill, a bit of dry food, a bit of water, so that between them that would be enough for the journey to America. They got in. Now this container was filled with crates of wine. I guess it could have been worse. Apparently they didn't drink, though. But the containers of wine. And there was only 2 feet above the containers, 2 feet headroom. So they crawled on their stomachs, their bellies, across the top. One guy got down into this small space and started to hand up these crates of wine. And they would pass them back one by one to create a space where they could at least stand and lay down and sit for their journey. They worked all through the night until the train started to go, and they, of course, didn't want to be detected. The train went to the shipping yard in Livorno, Italy, and it sat there. The first day, the crane loaded their container way up high, and Vasile said, we thought for sure we were going to die because the temperature got to 30 degrees Celsius. But then they were lowered down. They were thinking, oh, thank God, they were put in the shade. But through these holes they had made for air with their drills, they saw they were right next to the customs office and a police officer standing outside. So they had to be quiet for 9 days. Till finally they were loaded on a ship for the 5,700-kilometer journey across the Atlantic. And then they landed in Halifax. Well, they had also brought with them one clean, a change of clothes, a set of clean clothes. And Vasile said the first thing he thought of when they got off, or they were being loaded off, was to get into that clean pair of clothes. So they changed into their clean clothes. But I guess because they had made kind of a larger hole and put a blanket over it, they were detected up in the air. Someone yelled and said something's going on in that container. It looks like maybe stowaways. And so they left them up in the air for a few hours while the customs guards came. So they claimed refugee status. In Halifax, Vasile got a job as a painter, making $5 an hour, and then he came to Ontario and worked as a painter for a year and a half until he started his own painting company. Do you know, today in London, this man lives, this story was in the paper on Saturday. He is the owner of Millstone Homes. He builds very expensive homes. He also owns CVF Roofing, and he employs dozens of people and works with more than 50 different trades and suppliers. He drives a Porsche. He lives in a $750,000 house, and he's 30 years old.
Wow.
Yeah. He came to this country with nothing. So what was it that allowed him to step into the unknown, into that container? I want you to close your eyes for a moment. If you're wearing glasses, just take them off, and then put your hands over your closed eyes. Now, is it dark? Yeah. So this is what it was like for them, for those days when they were crossing the Atlantic Ocean. For 8 days, you can open your eyes. For 8 days, that's all. It was totally dark. What was it that allowed him to step into that container, to step into the unknown? They had been told by the man who collected their money that a lot of stowaways died on the trip in the container. They had been told that if the ship's captain found them in the container, that often the stowaways were thrown overboard because there was a fine of $5,000 a stowaway to the captain of the ship. So what was it that allowed them to step into that container? Well, you know what it was. Tell me. Faith. It was a faith in God that allowed him to step into that container. You know, our God never disappoints us. Our God is always there. And in Unity, we're not talking about a man or a woman or a being. We are talking about an energy that is inside of us that we contain, that we were expressed from, that we're like a drop of water from the ocean, that God, that energy is always there to support us for our highest good. So, in order for us to embrace the unknown, we have got to have faith. We've got to trust in the invisible hand of the universe supporting us on our journey, even when it looks like it's not the journey we're enjoying. Well, how could God be supporting this situation? How could God be supporting the earthquakes in Japan? How can that be good? Well, we don't need to know. We don't need to know the how. What we need to know is that there is a divine order unfolding. And we know that from our own lives when we look back and we can see in hindsight how something that seems so terrible showed up later as something that we needed to go through in order to have today's present good. There were two priests walking along, and one young priest was telling the other one all the problems about the parish and the people, and he was going on, what am I going to do? Tell me what to do, I don't know what to do. And the older priest stopped because they were in a garden, and he picked out a rose with its tight bud, and he handed it to the young priest. And the young priest is like, I'm telling you my problems, I want you to answer my questions, and you're handing me a rose? So the older priest said to him, I want you to unfold the petals of this rose without tearing them. Okay, so he tried, but it didn't work. And then the priest shared this poem with him. He took it out of his pocket and he read the poem called The Rose. It's only a tiny rosebud, a flower of God's design, but I cannot unfold the petals with these clumsy hands of mine. The secret of unfolding flowers is not known to such as I. The flower God opens so sweetly in my hands would fade and die. If I cannot unfold a rosebud, this flower of God's design, then how can I think that I have the wisdom to unfold this life of mine? So I'll trust in him for his leading each moment of every day. So I'll look to him for guidance each stop of the pilgrim way. For the pathway that lies before me, my Heavenly Father knows, I'll trust him to unfold the moments, just as he unfolds the rose. Can you trust? If you're in a terrible situation, can you turn to the God within you first and say, thy will in this situation? I give it over. Thy will be done. Remember last week we talked about how two minds are better than one, and it wasn't our two human minds gathering together, though certainly there is power in that. It was my human mind and the divine mind of God lining up so that I can be inspired through the mind of God. I can catch those ideas and then take those action steps to change my life with faith. That's the only way. That's the only way that we can have the life we truly want to live. We don't need to know. We just need to trust. Let's take that into meditation.
I believe for every drop of rain that falls, a flower grows, and I believe that somewhere in the darkest night a candle glows. I believe for everyone who goes astray, someone will come to show the way. Ooh, I believe, yes, I believe. I believe above the storm, the smallest prayer will still be heard. And I believe that flower grow.